In August, I had an opportunity to participate in a fact-finding mission to India and Nepal on behalf of the Bishops' Conference. The purpose of the visit was to, first of all, learn about the plight of refugees in that region. Secondly, to understand better the situation of human trafficking. And finally, to understand better how we could help and assist unaccompanied minors who are refugees or internally displaced people in this area. When you land in New Delhi and go out of the airport, you're surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of people. As you know, it is an extremely populous nation. And when you go out into the street, you realize you're in a different world. Rickshaws that are on every street, cars going from one side of the road to another, honking their horns and getting through the very narrowest spaces. Cows and water buffaloes are present in many areas, and drivers have to be terribly careful. People ride in open vans any way they can to move around this very congested and very populated city of New Delhi. When we were in New Delhi, we had first an opportunity to meet with the Jesuits who have a research center there studying the caste system in India and its effect on people's lives. As you know, in India, people are born into a particular class. They may be a Brahmin, which is the higher or upper class, or a Dalit, which is the lowest of classes. There is little mingling, little mixing, and people are locked into the place where they are born. Father James Dobby here in this picture is the director of the institute the Jesuits run to understand better Indian culture. In New Delhi, the Salesian Fathers run a center for street children. They meet them in railroad stations or bus stations and encourage and coax them to join them so that they can be cared for or can learn and become educated. Many of these young boys are addicted to all kinds of drugs, and the fathers work very hard to give them a new and better way of life. It was a delight to see their smiles and to hear their hopes. There are many different refugee groups in New Delhi. These young people were primarily from Afghanistan, and the boy in the middle was asking us that if he learned English and if he learned computers, could he go back to Afghanistan, his home, and do better than he was doing in New Delhi. Obviously, we told him we didn't know, but you could see his hopes and dreams. In New Delhi, there are a number of urban refugees. This family are Chin refugees, many of them Catholic, who have fled from Burma and now live in very deplorable conditions. 6, 7, 8 people at one time living in one room with toilet facilities for several families. This is a place where the Chin refugee families live in close confinement with swamp coolers that really don't work. A difficult and challenging life to raise a family. This picture presents a woman who lost her husband and now cares for her little son, trying to give him some future that is her dream for him. The Chin refugee leaders are very young men who are anxious to find a way for their people to go back home. Durable solutions for refugees are difficult. There are 3 possibilities. 1, to return home. 2nd, to become integrated into the country where the refugees now live, or to be settled in third countries. These young men encourage their people to serve one another and help each other in this difficult time of being refugees. You see here the field where the Chin refugee children play. Not a very attractive place, but nevertheless a place where children still enjoy fun and games. The Archbishop of New Delhi met with us and gave us insight into the plight of the Church in India. As you know, the Christians are a small minority in India, where primarily people are of Hindu faith. And the Archbishop is trying very hard to encourage the government to give more religious freedom to Christians. There is a bishops' conference in India. This group of priests and bishops are people who work, as we do in Washington, to help establish policies for the church in India among all the dioceses present there. Monsignor Sharma, the man in the middle of this picture wearing his Nepalese hat, is the vicar of Kathmandu. In Nepal, there are very few Catholics, only 7,000 in the whole country, and there is no diocese yet, but they hope one day to be a diocese. This group of young children are street children as well that Monsignor Sharma educates in Kathmandu at the only parish in the city titled the Church of the Assumption. They came on their day off to perform for us, and they were so proud of their performances. Father Justin and sister in this picture care for these young boys in Nepal who likewise have no family. The church becomes their family even though they are not of the Christian faith. This is the first church built in Nepal in the city of Kathmandu. It is called the Church of the Assumption, and it can't be called a church because the government doesn't allow churches to be built, but it's called a community center. You'll notice there are no pews, but people sit on the floor, as does the priest, in a lotus position as the church adapts and adjusts to the culture in which it exists. In the center of Kathmandu, there is great political upheaval. There is a Maoist insurgency that deposed the king just in April of 2006. And here you see a Maoist insurgency demonstration in the center of the temple area in Kathmandu. To the very midst of this Maoist demonstration was brought this young girl called the Little Princess, who is appointed by the king and remains the princess until she bleeds, either cutting her hand or having her period. And then she is let go, and a new girl becomes the Little Princess, a remnant of the kingdom which the Maoists have struggled to overcome. In the temple area, by the main Hindu temple in Kathmandu, people who die are placed with their feet touching the sacred river, in which for the last time they are in contact with the sacred. And then their bodies are taken and cremated along the temple front. The well-to-do on one side and the poor on the other. The caste system even dominates in death. The temple areas are very sacred places to the gods of the Hindus, and people come from all over to be blessed in the temple and to seek the assistance of the gods. This is an entryway into one of the great temples in Kathmandu. When you encounter a different religion, one has to listen and watch and understand. It's the same with cultures as well. Many countries and their culture are so different than ours, and it's humbling to open your eyes and ears to learn more about what is sacred to them and what they value. We spent a great deal of time in the Bhutanese refugee camps, which you see pictured here, thatched roofs and very congested environment. There are 107,000 Bhutanese refugees in Nepal. They were driven out of Bhutan, which is a kingdom, and now for over 17 years have lived in these settlement camps. In the camps, the families live in one small unit and share toilet facilities with a number of families. They go together to the well where they gather water to bring back to their families. And you see people preparing the rice that is the main source of nutrition for the people there, this elderly lady preparing food for her family. The people in the Bhutanese refugee camps are very eager to find a durable solution to their situation in which they have struggled for 17 years. These Bhutanese, who are teachers, were talking about the struggles that their people have. And one man said to us, "We are weeping morning, afternoon, evening. We are weeping. We want a solution to our problem." The young children here were looking through the slats in the wall at the elders who were meeting with us to explain their situation and the struggles that they have. The people continue to say they want something better for their children, but still nothing happens. I had an opportunity to speak to the Bhutanese refugee children who go to several schools run by Catholic Relief Services and Caritas Nepal, Catholic Charities of Nepal. There are 35,000 young people born in these refugee camps who are now being educated in these English schools by the Catholic Church. None of them are Christian, but all are Hindu, and each morning they sing the Bhutanese national anthem, remembering their own country, their own homeland, hoping someday to go back, and then they pray to the goddess of knowledge. It was my joy to listen to their hopes and dreams. As you can see, please help us to go back to our homeland. Even the little children are beginning to understand the struggles that they face in their lives. But the prayer and hope is that there would be a durable solution to these refugee children so that they do not have to live in this in-between world as adults. Most of the Bhutanese people suggested to us that they want to go back home, but also they gave us many letters asking that the United States might consider receiving them as refugees. The United States has offered to accept up to 50,000 Bhutanese refugees over 5 years, but at this point their situation is stagnant because the Nepal government wants them all to go back to Bhutan, lest the king of Bhutan simply expel other people and make them refugees in Nepal as well. In Nepal and in India there are also Tibetan refugees, and here you see 3 Tibetan children who came as unaccompanied minors over the mountain in Tibet with Buddhist monks to try to get their way into India. The boys are playing a little game they call tigers and goats, hoping someday to have a better life. The Tibetan refugees are very industrious and have developed the craft of carpet weaving. And here you see some of the ladies weaving the carpets that they sell as a way of caring for their families in this refugee state. This young boy also made the trek over the mountain, and young children sometimes experience frostbite, even as in our own desert people die of dehydration or the dangers of the desert. These refugees struggle with the journey and trek over the mountains, and sometimes are left without an arm or a leg because of frostbite. Thanks to the Dalai Lama, who has upheld the lives of Tibetan refugees and tried so very hard to assist Tibetan refugees, their situation has somewhat improved. In the Tibetan refugee camps, they have a handicraft center where the children learn some of the arts and skills of their people. You can always tell a Tibetan neighborhood because of the flags that are flying, a community that is very proud of who they are. The experience of going to another country and culture and world is very humbling, to understand what a different faith is like or the struggles of different people. And in the end, we rest upon our faith and the joy of knowing that the Christians are doing great good to try to help the situation of refugees in Asia and in Nepal. And as the Lord reflected here some of the culture of the countries where we visited, we pray that the plight of these refugees will be improved and that some durable solution will be found.